Class 11, Subject Accountancy, Chapter number 3, Accounting Principles, Lecture number 2. Hello students. In our last lecture, we read about a lot of principles of accounting. In this lecture, we will read the remaining ones. So, our fifth principle is materiality principle. What do you mean by materiality principle? It means disclosure of all material facts is compulsory, but it does not imply that even those figures which are irrelevant are to be included in financial statements. Materiality principle says that the accounting of material facts in the books of accounts and accountants need not present facts which are immaterial when while determining the income of the enterprise. Fine. So the materiality of an item depends on its nature and on the amount involved. Fine. For example, we can say money spent on extension of size of shop is a material fact because it will increase the earning capacity of the business. Fine. Similarly, stock of pencils, erasers, imports are not shown as asset, rather they are shown as revenue expenditure under the head stationery. Fine. So hence it is not material. According to this principle, only those items or information should be disclosed that have material effect and relevant to the users. So item having an insignificant effect or being irrelevant to the user need not to be disclosed separately. These may be merged with other items. They are saying if any item that is not so important for the business users or that is insignificant, fine, for business users, so it need not to be shown separately as this may be merged with other item. For example, a variation means changes in the value of closing stock by 200 rupees is not significant, but a variation in the cash balance of same amount is significant. Fine. And is it, see, the variation in the cash balance of same amount 200 rupees is significant and it is a material fact or not? Yes, it is a material fact as well. Fine. So money spent on the extension of size of shop is a material fact. Amount we have cash balance, fine, in the form of cash balance in the business is also a material fact. But the variation of closing stock by 200 is insignificant. It is not material fact. Fine. If the knowledge of any information may affect the user's decision, it is termed as material information. So it should be noted that an item material for one enterprise may not be material or significant, we can say, for another enterprise. As I told you the example of closing stock now and stationery as well. So an item of expense of 50,000 is immaterial for an enterprise having turnover of rupees 100 crore. Fine. So it depends upon the enterprise whether this information is material or immaterial for that. Right? Next one is prudence principle. What do you mean by prudence? According to this principle, profit in anticipation should not be recorded, but loss in anticipation should immediately be recorded. They are saying, according to the principle of prudence, or we can say conservatism, if the management anticipate loss, provision should be made for loss. But if it anticipates profit, it should not be recorded in the books of accounts unless and until it is realized. Fine. So the principle states that the management should be conscious while ascertaining income, which failing which profit will be overstated. Fine. So if we will have profit in future, definitely it will be plus point for us. But if we will have loss in future, we are already prepared for the particular loss. Fine. This is prudence principle. See, when different equally acceptable alternative methods are available, the methods which having least favorable immediate effect. They are saying least favorable immediate effect on profit should be adopted. Fine. When there are two alternative methods which are equally acceptable, the method which have least favorable immediately effect on the profit means if in near future we are going to get profit, only then we will be able to adopt that method which is giving us profit. Fine. Like number one, valuation of stock at cost or realizable values, whichever is lower. And second number is for provision for doubtful debts and provision for discount on debtor is made. Next one is cost principle. What do you mean by cost principle? According to this principle, an asset is recorded in the books of accounts at their purchase price, at their original cost, comprising cost of acquisition and all expenditure incurred for making the asset ready to use. Fine. Cost principle says that assets are recorded in the books of accounts at their purchase price, which includes cost of purchase, transportation, installation, and for making the asset ready to use. For example, a machinery is purchased at a cost of 40 lakh. Fine. So, if 20,000 are paid as transportation cost and we can suppose 10,000 as an installation cost, so the amount of machinery will be recorded in the books of account as 40 lakhs 30,000. 40 lakhs is the cost of the machinery, 20,000 transportation cost, 10,000 installation cost. So 40,000 plus 20,000 plus 10,000 means 40 lakh 30,000. 40 lakh plus 20,000 plus 10,000. 40 lakh 30,000 will be the cost of machinery included in the books of accounts. Fine. So purchase price of the asset actually paid from basis of for that asset. This cost becomes the basis of all subsequent accounting transactions for the asset. Since the acquisition cost related to the past, it is referred to as historical cost. Fine. They are saying that it is the basis of all the accounting transactions for an asset. If we have done acquisition of some asset, definitely we will have to include all the values, the cost of the assets, the transportation cost and its installation cost as well, if we are going to record that asset in the books of accounts. Fine. So this cost become basis of all subsequent transactions for accounting for the asset Says the acquisition cost related to the past, so it is referred to as historical cost. Fine. For example, see, machinery purchased for rupees 1,50,000 in cash and 20,000 we have spent on its installation, then 1,70,000 will be recorded as the cost of machine in the books, and depreciation will be charged on this cost only. Fine. And if the market value of machine due to inflation has gone up of rupees 2 lakh, then the increased value will not be recorded. Fine. So this cost is systematically reduced from year to year by charging depreciation. How? By charging depreciation. Fine. Understood this example? Suppose we have purchased machinery of 1,50,000. 20,000 we have spent on its installation. Then 1,70,000 will be recorded as the cost of machine in the books of accounts. Fine. And if the market value of the machinery has gone up to 2 lakh, it will not be recorded in the books, as it is already systematically reduced from year after year by charging depreciation, and the assets are shown in the balance sheet at book value. Fine. Next one is matching principle. Matching principle says that all expenses incurred by any enterprise during an accounting period are matched with the revenue recognized when during the same accounting period. So matching concept says that expenses incurred in an accounting period should be matched with revenue earned during that period. So expenses and revenue must belong to same accounting period to determine the correct profit of accounting period. Fine. So the matching principle facilitates to ascertain the amount of profit or loss incurred in a particular period by deducting the related expenses from the revenue recognized that period. Fine. So matching principle implies that all revenue earned during an accounting period, whether received or not, and all expenses incurred during an accounting year, whether paid or not, are matched to ascertain the profit or loss for that accounting year. Fine. In brief, we can say that all the expenses should match with all the revenues. Fine. The following treatment of expenses and revenue are done due to matching principle. Number 1, ascertainment of prepaid expenses. Number 2, ascertainment of income received in advance. Number 3, accounting of closing stock. And number 4, depreciation charged on fixed assets. All these points are to be taken into consideration if we are treating the expenses and revenue on the basis of matching principle. Fine. Next one is dual aspect principle. Dual aspect principle says that every business transaction has two aspects, one debit and one credit. I told you earlier, debit shows the left hand side of the account and credit shows the right hand side of the account. In other words, for every debit there is a credit of equal amount in one or more account and vice versa. So according to dual aspect concept is the accounting on the basis of which transactions are recorded. The concept states that every business transaction has two aspects, debit and credit of equal amount. For every debit, there is a credit of equal amount in one or more accounts. So, the system of accounting is called double entry system. Fine. For example, we can say Mohan started business by investing 1 lakh in cash. So, capital brought in cash will increase the asset in the business. How much for how much amount? 4 rupees 1 lakh. At the same time, capital will also increase by rupees 1 lakh. Fine. So, dual aspect principle says that if anything the debit is entered in the books of account credit, it will also affect credit side of another account. Fine. So, we are finding two aspects here. One is receiving a benefit and another one is yielding a benefit. Fine. The system of recording the transactions based on this principle is called double entry system. So due to this principle, the two sides of balance sheet are always equal. You know what are the two sides of the balance sheet? Asset side and liability side. Fine. And the following accounting equation will always hold good of any point of time. Fine. See, this term implies double entry system. There, here one example is there. Asset is equal to liability plus capital. You know, capital is equal to asset minus liability. So, if Ram started business with cash of rupees 1 lakh, it increases cash in asset side and it will also increase capital in liability side by rupees 1 lakh. We will do all this in accounting equation, that is our chapter 6. So asset of rupees 1 lakh is equal to liabilities plus capital of rupees 1 lakh. We are saying asset is increasing by rupees 1 lakh as well as side by side capital is also increasing by rupees 1 lakh. Fine. So if asset is equal to liability plus capital and Ram started business with cash. Cash is asset or liability? It is an asset. So it increases cash in asset side and capital in liability side. Why? Because if Ram started business with cash and according to the principle of business entity, the business and Ram both are separate entity. It means that business is the debtor of Ram. Business has to pay 1 lakh back to Ram as it has taken from Ram as a capital to start it. Fine. That's why it will increase in the asset side and it will increase in the capital side of the business. Fine. Now, what are the objectives of accounting standards? Accounting standards are required to bring uniformity. How? Because in accounting practices and policies, by proposing standard treatment in preparation of financial statements. As you all know that financial statements are to be prepared by every organization, every business entity by preparing trading and profit and loss account and balance sheet. Fine. So accounting standards are required to bring uniformity. Fine. Second one is to improve the reliability of the financial statement. Accounts prepared by using accounting standards are reliable for various users. How? Because these standards create a sense of confidence among the users. Definitely, the users will be able to know the financial soundness of the business after seeing the profit and loss account, trading account, and balance sheet of the business. Fine. So it also improves reliability of the financial statement among users. Fine. Third one is to prevent frauds and manipulation. How? By codifying the accounting methods and practices. In accounting practices, there are less chance of fraud and manipulation because every transaction is recorded in the business in the books of accounts as per the rules. So all the accounts are to be prepared honestly, so there will be less chance of fraud and manipulation. Fine. Fourth one is to help auditors. Accounting standards provide uniformity in accounting practices, so it helps auditors to audit the books of accounts. Accounting help auditors to audit the books of accounts. Fine. Now, what are the bases of accounting? There are two bases of accounting. There are two bases of ascertaining profit or loss, namely cash basis and accrual basis. What do you mean by cash basis of accounting and what do you mean by accrual basis of accounting? Let's see. Number one, cash basis of accounting. Under this system of accounting, transactions are recorded in the books of accounts only on the receipt or payment of cash. This line is very important. The accounting transactions are recorded in the cash basis of accounting only on the receipt and payment of cash. So the income is calculated as the excess of actual cash receipt in respect of the sale of goods and services over actual cash payments regarding purchase of goods, expense, rent, electricity and salaries. Fine. So under this system of accounting, the financial transactions are recorded only when cash is received or cash is paid. Credit transactions are not recorded in it. It means that revenue is recognized on receipt of cash and expense is recognized on payment of cash. So difference between total receipt and total expense represent either profit or loss. Fine. Entry is not recorded when a payment or receipt merely due. Fine. Like outstanding expenses, accrued income are not treated. So this method is opposite to the matching principle because in matching principle there everything should match between revenue and expenses. Fine. Accrual basis of accounting. What do you mean by accrual basis of accounting? Under this system of accounting, revenue and expenses are recorded when they are recognized. Income is recorded as income when it is accrued. Similarly, expenses are recorded when they are occurred. They are saying accrual basis of accounting is based upon basically credit. Fine. If any expenses occurred or income received, whether received or not, whether means cash is received or not, we have to enter that transaction in the business. This means accrual basis of accounting. Fine. So accrual basis of accounting says that all the transaction, whether cash or credit, are to be recorded in the system. Fine. So system is generally followed by business entities whose objective is to earn profit. Fine. Under this system, the expenses such as outstanding expenses, prepaid expenses, accrued income, income received in advance are identified and taken into account. Fine. Under the Companies Amendment Act 2013, all the companies required to maintain their account according to accrual basis of accounting. They are saying according to Companies Amendment Act 2013, it is very much compulsory for all the business entity that they have to record all the transactions according to accrual basis of accounting. Means they have to record all the cash and credit transactions all together. Fine. Now, what is the difference between accrual basis of accounting and cash basis of accounting? See, number one, recording of transactions. Under accrual basis of accounting, both cash and credit transactions are recorded. And under cash basis of accounting, only cash transactions are recorded. Fine. Second one is profit or loss. Profit or loss is ascertained correctly due to complete record of transactions. And under cash basis of accounting, correct profit or loss is not ascertained because it records only cash transactions. Fine. What is the distinction between capital and revenue? Accrual basis of accounting method makes a distinction between capital and revenue items. And cash basis of accounting does not make a distinction between capital and revenue nature items. Fine. Fourth one is legal position. Means this basis is recognized under the Companies Act 2000. Under the Companies Act 2013, the accrual basis of accounting is recognized. And cash basis of accounting is not recognized under the Companies Act. Fine. So this is the difference between cash basis of accounting and accrual basis of accounting. Under accrual basis, both cash and credit transactions are there, but under cash basis, only cash transactions are there. Under accrual basis, profit or loss are ascertained correctly, but here they are not ascertained correctly. Accrual basis makes a distinction between capital and revenue item, and cash basis does not make a distinction between capital and revenue item. And last, legal position. Accrual basis is recognized under Companies Act 2013, but cash basis is not recognized under the Companies Act. Fine. So, if we are saying that cash basis or accrual basis, fine, both under accrual basis, the incomes are recorded on accrual basis. Whether this cash is received or not, they have to record. But under cash basis only, these are recorded only if these are recorded in the cash. Fine. And received in cash as well. And accrual basis of accounting does not record, does not record only cash. These are recorded at credit basis of accounting as well. Whether cash is paid for expenses or not, these are to be recorded under accrual basis of accounting. And In cash basis of accounting, all the expenses are recorded on cash basis whether they relate to current period of accounting or not. Fine. So what is more fair and reliable between two, accrual or cash? Definitely accrual, because it is showing the true and fair picture of profitability of the business. And in cash transactions, credit transactions are not recorded, so this does not show the true and fair picture of the business. Fine. So your homework is to learn all these terms whatever I taught you, fine, in this recording, and note down in your notebook as well. Tomorrow I will give you the assignment to do.